Hi guys, Bran here, and welcome to another commentary video. Today, I wanted to ask you, are we entering another golden era of Dead by Daylight? I miss the glory days of Dead by Daylight. I hear that phrase a lot, almost too much. It's almost aggravating how much I hear that. It's mostly uttered by DBD veterans on Twitch. They shout at the sky, oh, Country used to have 2 windows. Killers wouldn't have even lasted back then. Back in the day, we had an honor code about not using slowdowns and not using too many exhaustion perks. A bunch of stuff, just, you know, old veteran players yelling at the sky about how much better the game used to be back when they played it. Now, there are many elements that go into this and thrown around about what the better days of Dead by Daylight were. Some think those days were the game's first year, and some think there's a few specific chapters in 2018 that are good, but the answer is always different. It's awfully just depending on the subjective preference of the person that's saying it. For example, a Survivor main probably feels like the best years of DBD were probably the early years of DBD, because that's when the structures were most broken, that's when movement was more fluid, that's where perks were really strong for Survivor. And a killer main probably prefers more recent DBD years because that's, you know, there was a lot more anti-chase killers, their maps have been balanced, a lot more perks have been balanced, so that favors more the killer side. However, one thing I've noticed in common with these people that are always yelling at the sky about this sort of stuff is that no matter what side you're on, most people agree that the better days of DBD are behind us. And the community seems to be stuck in this endless cycle of negativity drawn in by this feeling that the better days are past us. And it is in this age of endless negativity when it comes to Dead by Daylight that we find ourselves in this weird spot ever since the 6th anniversary broadcast. Even on this own channel, we have highlighted for years that it seemed that behavior was just beyond listening to the community. Behavior seemed to just kind of do whatever they wanted with little regard to the players that stuck with their game regularly, instead trying to focus more on bringing new players consistently over appeasing their player base themselves. And it seemed like video after video, community uproar after community uproar, that behavior just wouldn't listen to their own community. No matter how much it seemed to be a major problem with like a perk or a map or like a bug issue or a glitch, they always seem to kind of turn a blind eye. Who cares if a perk has 74% usage? Just let it go, just let it be. If it's ruining the games, who cares? Just take your new killer, take your new survivor, take your new chapter, and hush. But that changed with the 6th anniversary broadcast. Behavior seems to be listening. Where do I even begin? Isn't that a weird thing that I even get to say that? It's like, where do I begin? There's good things, and there's so many good things that I don't know which one to pick to begin with. Isn't that nutty? I'm going to start off with behavior looking at 2 very outdated systems. That being Prestige and then the perk grind systems. And they took these 2 things and they just simply put them together. Formally prestiging a character will result in you losing all items and offerings that you had gained on that character so far, just so you could get a bloody cosmetic that honestly was hit or miss depending on which character it was. It got to the point where I just started telling people that it was just kind of like a bad idea to prestige, period, because unless you really wanted that specific prestige on that specific character, I think like Cheryl's is good, Bubba's is good, Pyramid Head's is good, but outside of that, they're kind of so just kind of like perk out your characters and don't worry about prestiging. That's what I always tell people. The blood investment versus reward was just quite simply not worth it at all. As for the perk grind, this is probably the most unhappy and unwell designed thing in Dead by Daylight. It's absolutely abhorrent. Earning a perk 3 times in a row to be able to use it efficiently is already kind of yucky, but at least when there was only 7 characters in the game, it made a little bit more sense, because spending points to get 3 ranks of a perk when there's only 21 teachables in addition to the general perks, that's not as daunting of a task. Now, in 2022, we have so many more perks. There are 31 survivors, there are 26 killers, so that's a total of 57 characters that you have to go through all 3 of their teachables 3 times. So you have 171 perks that you got to run through 3 times. The system is absolutely bloated, and the system is absolutely out of control. A contorted blob that feels like the end is never in sight, no matter how many points and stuff that you put into the actual characters, it never feels like you're getting closer to the end. You're always going to be working at a disadvantage. I like a lot of the survivor characters, but I literally can't play them because I get so little blood points and they just don't have good perks on them. So unless I just want to get absolutely blasted by a killer, I don't want to playing those survivors. I just don't. There are certain killers that, even though I have them all Prestige 3 and I have at least a playable build on all of them, there's some characters I avoid because I can't use the builds I want on them because I just don't have them. And it feels like I've been playing this game for 2 years straight, 4 or 5 days a week, and I still don't have all the characters perked out in the game. That is an absurd amount of time to spend on a game and still not have all the perks on every character in the game. And to make things even worse, in the middle of your journey to try and like prestige and perk everybody out, another killer in Survivor is released every 3 months, hacking up your journey by at least 6 perks, and sometimes 9, because sometimes they release 2 survivors. So you already have this immense grind that you have to be on, and then they make it worse preoccupantly. This thing needed a rework a long time ago, and it needed it urgently. However, in the new system, the teachable method still exists, but once you prestige a character, you gain all their teachables across all characters at the prestige level that you are currently at. For example, if you're Hillbilly and you go to prestige 1, you get Enduring, Tinkerer, and Lightborn at tier 1 on every killer character. Instead of having to run through a perk 3 whole times, because that's dumb, through a blood web to complete it, you can just simply prestige a character 3 times and call it a day. This incredibly lowers the grind in an incredibly massive way. If you're in a situation where you have all killers prestige 3 like I do, when a new chapter comes out, you automatically have all perks except the general perks already unlocked on that character. You still need to get stuff like Sloppy, like Noed, that sort of thing, but only having to go through a dozen or so blood webs compared to 78 killer perks 3 times is a major difference. Huge major difference. A huge reduction in the grind. So prestige is now worthwhile. Bam, done. Per grind, reduced by a huge margin. That alone would have been incredible, but they're also taking it a step further. 40 of the most used perks in the game are getting a rework. If you go anywhere on DBD Twitter, Twitch, Reddit, anywhere on social media, the #1 complaint you'll see among both sides, is the staleness of gameplay. We can all agree on that. A long time ago, behavior reworked Hex Ruin because they thought it was the most used perk in the game, and they were tired of seeing it. They were tired of every character, every killer, bringing it into the match. So they changed it. So what ended up happening? They accidentally made Ruin better and actually increased its usage rate. So I think, and this is just conjecture, I think that scared them away from reworking perks based on being used too much. Even though the philosophy is great in an asymmetrical game to keep refreshing the meta, that way the games actually feel different. However, the blunders seem to have scared them away from reworking perks just based on intense usage and making the matches all feel the same based on everybody bringing it in. And in this wake of them just kind of abandoning this philosophy of taking away perks or reworking perks because they're being used too much, perks like Dead Hard, DS, Noed, Pop, Ruin just kind of like festered. Like they just became the most used perks and years and years and years. And I do say that with a capital Y, years, all caps, years. It has been the same builds across Survivor and Killer. It's been exhaustion versus slowdown meta for years. These are the same loadouts that you see in every game over and over and over and over again. Many people have quit the game over this rapid stagnation and that behavior resigned themselves to since the Ruin blunder. But seemingly, from the blue, they announced 40 of the most used perks in the game are going to be actually getting a rework. They even put out a chart showing that they have been compiling data on problematic perks for quite some time before this. The game will not look the same after 40 whole perks are changed. Matches will feel different, refreshing, players will have to learn new strategies, new builds, they'll have to adapt and grow in players instead of using the same crutch perks to carry them through every single match because there's only about 12 of them. You only see the same 12 perks on a killer, you see only the same 12 perks on Survivor. And this is the main way DBD has been for literally years. This has been its main issue. How many times do I have to run against a triple slowdown gamer who's just being crutched up by their perks? How many times do I have to run and do like a Survivor squad that has 4 team members all running like 2 or 3 second chance perks? How many times do you have to do that before you go mad? But behavior said, we're gonna handle that. We're gonna tackle that head on. Here's the data to back it up. We're working on it. There's so much more I can't cover in this video because this video is already incredibly long compared to my other videos, but there's a lot of little stuff there too, like perk loadout presets are now going to be a thing, so you can just have your favorite builds saved so you can just go back to them anytime. There's also been, I think, personally an increase in like fairness when it comes to map design when they're reworking maps. There's just, their main focus this year seems to be quality of life changes. And that's all coming in 2022. They said this is all coming this year. All this is coming this year. So that's why I ask you guys, with all of these things where they seem to be just listening for once and actually tackling our concerns head on and doing seemingly a good job at it, are we about to be in the next golden era of Dead by Daylight? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you so much for watching this video, friendos. But I do upload daily, so hopefully I will see you tomorrow in tomorrow's video. But if I don't, I will see you when I see you, friends. Goodbye.